So we're going to be hearing, having a talk in a moment by Eve. And yeah, I was really struck by talking to Eve earlier, how inspired I felt just hearing her talk about her relationship with Padmasambhava. And, you know, she was talking about, you know, the demons and all that energy that resides in our demons, if you like, and the power of Padmasambhava to transform that. So, so I'm really looking forward to the talk, and yeah, and you know, I just felt really inspired listening to you, Eve. So thanks for doing tonight's talk, and over to you.
Thank you, Bodhinaya. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. Riding a tiger, the guru came, smile fierce and friendly, eyes aflame. Riding a tiger from coast to coast, with his Vajra he scattered the demon host. Guru, great Guru, dispel my sin, hurl back the demon hordes within, transform them to powers that protect the right. Thou the thousand armed, thou the infinite light. So that's a poem written by the founder of our order, Shantarakshita, and the poem's called Padmasambhava. And I first heard that poem maybe a month or two ago during prostration practice with Triratnaloka. Karunadi read it out before, and it was just, yeah, I was just so mesmerized by the poem throughout the whole practice. I just felt it, Bente really captured Padmasambhava just in those 16 lines. He really kind of who he was and what he did, and also what qualities Padmasambhava has. So before I begin to start going into this talk, I want to actually dedicate it to Padmasambhava himself for being the infinite source of inspiration that he is. And I also want to dedicate it to our teacher, Shantarakshita Bente, for he has been the gateway for me, the doorway, the portal to Padmasambhava. So, and the talks, it's called Celebrating the Vision of Padmasambhava, and tonight's really an event of celebration. As you can probably tell how some of us are dressed up, and how Bodhinaya explained how the puja is going to go. It's going to be quite playful and fun. So I really just want to, really just celebrate Padmasambhava and just acknowledge him and honor him tonight, just for being that infinite source of inspiration. I also really want to focus on the vision element and the visual faculty that's so evoked when you come across Padmasambhava. So there's basically going to be 3 rough sections. I've only got just under 30 minutes, so it's going to be really hard to talk about Padmasambhava thoroughly. So I'll probably only just scratch the surface, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. So the first part, I'm just going to introduce you a bit to Padmasambhava. I'm going to show you some really fun paintings of him that I've found, and just give you a bit of background on who he was. And then the second part, it's going to be exploring the vision that makes Padmasambhava so infamous, the vision that he had, the vision of him transforming demons. And then the final part, I'm just going to briefly go into why we're celebrating him today, and what's his importance and relevance to our tradition, and yeah, why are we celebrating him dressed up and going to be banging instruments later for him. So many of you might be quite familiar with him, many of you might not be, but regardless, just so we can really get that sense of that feel, that visual element of him, I'm going to introduce you to him. So Padmasambhava, he's really quite a unique figure because, well, in many ways, he's quite a unique figure, but it's especially because he's where history and myth infuse together. So it makes him quite different to a lot of the other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas because he existed. But although there's not really a lot of hard factual evidence that we know about him, we know that he existed. We know that he went to Tibet, and the rest of it is a lot of mysterious encounters, stories and teachings from him that really require us to use our visual imagination when we come into contact with Padmasambhava. That's really some things that I really noticed when I was starting to learn more about him and read about him, is that it really requires you to use your power of imagination. But one thing that we do know what Padmasambhava did is that he had an infinite and just an everlasting effect upon Tibet when he visited. So it doesn't really matter what we know, if it's hard or factual or evidence. We know that he's had a humongous ripple upon the Buddhist world. And he's not confined by evidence. He's so much beyond that. He's beyond limitations. You know, he's enlightened. He's way beyond, your Wikipedia facts. So, and the name Padmasambhava translates as the lotus born, he who is born upon a lotus. And in the life and liberation of Padmasambhava, it's kind of like his life story. This book, there's 2 books. And the first kind of encounter you meet of him as Padmasambhava, he comes out of a lotus on the lake of Dharmakosha, and he's like a lilac. He's like the color of Parma violets, and he's 8 years old, and he's there beaming, and he's fully enlightened already. So already when you first meet Padmasambhava, the lotus born, he who's born upon a lotus, a lot of visual elements is there, a lot of imagination in his story. I'm not going to go too much into that area, but he's basically most infamous for founding the Nyingma tradition, which is the oldest of the 4 Tibetan traditions in Tibet. And he's from India, but like I said, he's really famous for his time what he spent in Tibet. So I'm going to show you some pictures of him now. I just want to watch, I just want to invite you to watch your reaction to these images. You might see wrath, you might see beauty, you might be a bit scared, you might be a bit confused. There's usually a lot going on. There's also many forms of Padmasambhava. There's 8 altogether. There's 8 different forms of him. And he can appear in many different ways. But yeah, just be aware. You don't have to be, intrigued by him. I met someone on retreat who she actually avoided any Padmasambhava day possible because she found him scary. So the images aren't that scary, but I'm going to now share screen. So please let me know if it's working. Can everybody see this? Yay, great. So this is probably one of my favorite paintings of Padmasambhava. This is by an artist called Aloka. He's a member of our Tratna order. He did the big Buddha that sits in the downstairs area of the Buddhist center. I really love this kind of, it's not a very traditional image that you see of Padmasambhava actually. When you type Padmasambhava, he's usually a lot more Tibetan looking and heavily robed. This is more him when he's in the cremation ground and he's upon a corpse. He's got a skull cup full of bright red nectar, the deathless, in his palm. He has a vajra and he's surrounded by an entourage of flailing darkinis. They are the epitome of liberation, of freedom and inspiration. So I can't go too much into what the symbolism means, but the they're all portals. They're all portals for us to discover ourselves deeper and show us the truth of reality. Here's a bit more of a traditional one. This is a Tibetan style. He's heavily adorned in the 3 robes of the yanas, the Vajrayana of the blue, the Hinayana of the yellow, although it's more orange in this one, and then the outer of the Mahayana, which is usually red, but again, this is a bit purple. And he has a flaming trident with 3 severed heads with ribbons flailing in the air. This is another one that's quite, first time I saw this, I felt like crying. I thought this was a really beautiful, this is Padmasambhava, I feel very much when he's looking beautiful. And then this is Padmasambhava in rainbow form. And I'm not going to describe to you what rainbow form is because I don't really understand it myself and I won't do it justice. But when I first started Googling Padmasambhava, I came across these images of him in rainbow form, and I was just completely bamboozled. Like, who is this rainbow orb of a human, not even a human being, but I found it very fascinating. And he's got Avalokiteshvara, a 2-armed Avalokiteshvara above him, who he's closely associated with. There's also a green Tara, who is also in the Padma, the Lotus family with him. He also actually has a Vajrapani and a Manjushri, the wisdom Buddhas. Yeah. Here we go. This is another pretty wild one. This is by a psychedelic artist called Alex Gray. And I actually had a book of his artwork way before who I knew Padmasambhava was. And then, yeah, this is a pretty wild one. He's heavily adorned with symbolism, as you can see. He's very visually captivating. And this is another one by Arloka. Here, yeah, he's a bit more dark and magician-like, the alchemist that he is. Oh, yeah, I think that's all of them for now. Got some more photos for you later. Great. So now I'm just going to kind of go into some of his qualities. So he's, like I've said, he's really, what he's known most for is being the transformer, the sorcerer. But he's also a very deeply compassionate being. And this is a really important quality of Padmasambhava, that everything is so done with compassion, even if he may look a bit scary at times. He's also known as the guru with direct and practical teachings. So Padmasambhava is very closely associated with the Buddha Amitabha. In fact, in many images, he's usually this Amitabha above him. There wasn't in any of them, but usually there is an Amitabha there. And he's seen as an emanation of Amitabha. So naturally, Padma really, he really kind of permeates these qualities that Amitabha has of infinite love and also discriminative wisdom. And Padmasambhava really has the ability to directly meet whoever he meets, and really respond to that individual person's needs. This is very much why he's known as the guru. It's almost a quality, it's very similar to the Buddha Shakyamuni, where whoever he met, he could directly see them as them, who they are, and give them a teaching so unique for them in that specific moment. So Padmasambhava also harnesses that Buddha quality. And his compassion is not a flat, wishy-washy sympathy. This is a sorrow for another that is fueled by the desire to alleviate it. Compassion is a state of action. And I really want to emphasize on this active nature of Padmasambhava. He's seething with energy and he is wholeheartedly engaged. Often in his teachings, he's constantly reminding us of the characteristics of reality, of anatta, anicca, and dukkha, the lakshanas. He's constantly reminding us of the intrinsic nature of existence. And he also is always kind of telling us to, in many ways, abandon laziness. And one of the first things that he says when he comes out of this miraculous lotus as a Parma violet coloured 8-year-old enlightened boy, he says, "I am here devoting myself to the destruction of suffering." So it's pretty radical for a young boy on a lotus. It's just that real destruction element, that active. He is there to destroy suffering. He's there to alleviate it. And in the visual form of Padmasambhava, he's depicted with his right foot out, like green Tara. He's in action. He's ready to step into the world and assist us. And it says that if you chant his invocation, he will appear. And Zach will be doing that later, so hopefully he will join us. And I just want to, I just want to read something out, actually by Bente when he first stumbled across Padmasambhava. So, in seeing the figure of Padmasambhava, I had become conscious of a spiritual presence that had in fact been with me all the time. Though I had never seen the figure of Padmasambhava before, it was familiar to me in a way that no other figure on earth was familiar. Familiar and fascinating. It was familiar as my own self, yet at the same time, infinitely mysterious, infinitely wonderful, and infinitely inspiring. And I think a real important quality about Padmasambhava is that he's beyond time and form. You know, he has the marks and the signs of a Buddha. He is enlightened, and he's infinite and boundless in nature. Padmasambhava, he transcends birth and death. He drinks from a skull cup full of Amrita nectar, the thick red nectar of the deathless, of immortality. He's also the shapeshifter, and in the life of liberation of Padmasambhava, he's constantly metamorphosizing through different forms, different bodies, and he manifests more as an energy or a state of consciousness, willing to take on any form that's necessary to bring us towards enlightenment. And I just want to read something from him himself. For all men and women with faith in me, I, Padmasambhava, have never departed. I sleep beside their door. For me, there is no such thing as death. Before each person with faith, there is a Padmasambhava. Just really kind of emphasizes that sense what Bante was speaking about of Padmasambhava always being there, always being on the peripheral. And often in my dreams, you know, I don't have a dream where I'm like, oh, I'm having this amazing contact with Padmasambhava. He's usually very hidden. He may be on like a magazine cover or a little tiny rupa in the very background in the distance of my dream. He always seems to just be there on the peripheral, on the edge. So now we're going to go into the second part. So this is going to be looking at Padmasambhava's vision and the vision of Padmasambhava in terms of transforming demons. And yeah, I just wanted to look at the approach that made the Dharma really flourish in Tibet, and why, how, and why that happened. So in the 8th century, the King Trisong Detsen of Tibet, He really, really wanted Buddhism to become established. He wanted it to be fruitful. He wanted it to be abundant in Tibet. It was there, but it was not really there, and he really, really, really wanted it. So he decided to bring an Indian teacher in, and he decided to bring Shantarakshita because he was a very well revered Buddhist master. He's even now seen as a bodhisattva in Tibet. He really, really wanted Dharma to flourish. So he invited this very great guy, who's known for his amazing master and teachings of the Dharma. But something happened when Shantarakshita came, something in his method that just didn't respond well with the forces, the indigenous forces that resided in Tibet. For some reason, the way that Shantarakshita came in and taught the Dharma, it's actually made the demons, the energies, the spirits, the gods, the devas, the devis, the nagas and the garudas. In fact, it gave them more strength. And when they were building a monastery to try and establish the Dharma, each brick they lay in the day, it was torn down at night. The spirits took them down. And then there was famine, there was drought, there was all sorts of chaos, there was hailstorms, there was something really that just wasn't settled. And it just reached to a point where Shantarakshita was just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I'm not the guy to do it. And Bente really draws out in a talk about this actually, that Shantarakshita's method was rather rational and didn't involve the whole of the Tibetan psyche. And so Shantarakshita was like, I can't do this anymore. And he was like, but I know who will. I know who can do this. I know this guy called Padmasambhava. He should be the guy to do this. He will do this. And Shantarakshita came back once Padmasambhava had settled things down a little bit. And Padmasambhava was very different. As soon as he came in, he was greeting everything. This god here, this demon here, this spirit. He really met all of these forces that were residing in Tibet. And he really saw these forces and met them, and he really faced them fearlessly. He doesn't ignore them or these parts in the Tibetan psyche. He didn't cut them out. He doesn't just come there to tame the demons, though. He also comes to tame the demons in our own minds. And Padmasambhava, what he symbolizes is the transformative force of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And we've all experienced some sort of transformation since coming into contact with the Buddhist center, or with the Dharma, or with the Sangha, or the Buddha. We've all felt that, no matter how minute or big it may have been. We've all felt that force of transformation, and Padmasambhava is that force. He's that force of transformation. It's why we're all here dressed up sillily now, celebrating together, because we've all been touched by transformation. And it's just, I just really love that line in that poem: to hurl back the demon hordes within, transform them to powers that protect the right. And Padmasambhava really saw the value of all forces that may oppose or hinder or block our potential for growth. He saw the importance of vigorously, with body, speech, and mind, transforming all our many facets of our being to flow ceasingly in the same direction, to even bring our demons and our darker sides upon the path to liberation with us. For our obstacles hold the path to freedom, and without our obstacles, there is no progress. And if we let the force of transformation, or Padmasambhava, to turn our demons into protectors, into guardians, Just imagine what potential could unfold. Our demons are really, they're gems in disguise. They're portals into our own mind and experience and habits. But I think the most important thing about Padmasambhava's transformative quality is his power of compassion. Whatever he meets is with the power of compassion in a state of love. And this is not a sickly love, but it's fierce. It's a ferocious love, that of a tigress protecting her only cub. Padmasambhava is the vision of the transformative compassion. You know, no matter how grueling the demon ahead may be, if we meet it with an open, receptive, lotus-like heart, it can be transformed. So that all sounds quite fun and entertaining, but how does this wild tantric demon transformer guru relate to us, and why are we all here together celebrating him? So the most important thing is that we stand as inheritors to the whole of the Buddhist tradition. We stand as inheritors to the whole of the Buddhist tradition. Everything we know about the Dharma, about Buddhism, has been passed down onto us. And without Padmasambhava, we wouldn't have had the richness of Tibetan Buddhism influence not just our tradition, but the whole Buddhist world. And Padmasambhava is actually, let me share screen. Okay. Oh, that's another, I should got, yeah, this is him with his many forms. Sorry, I forgot to show you this one. He's got 8 forms. There is 2 consorts. But yeah. So we actually have Padmasambhava on our refuge tree. He's part of our lineage. So a refuge tree is it's basically an image of all of the teachers and the figures sort of influence Bente, our teacher, in creating this tradition. Yeah. So this is actually a not updated version, and there's Padmasambhava just here, if you can see him. That's Padmasambhava. So we have inherited Buddhism from the Buddha to the Arahants over here, that has been passed on through the lineages to the teachers of the past. Here's Padmasambhava, and that's flown through and through to Bante's teachers here. And this has gone through Bente onto us. And here are the beautiful Tibetan teachers that were very important in teaching Bente. These have all had spent time in the Nyingmapa tradition, or they were part of it, which is the tradition of Tibet where it started with Padmasambhava. It started with Padmasambhava, and it's gone through generations of lineages down to these teachers, which have gone through to us. So Padmasambhava, we're part of his lineage. Yeah. So he's actually very, very important. How do I go? Stop share. Great. I also just want to draw upon, oh yeah, Bante, he was initiated into the Guru Padmasambhava practice by Kachu Rinpoche in the 1960s. And Bante was also given the name Urgyen. So Urgyen is Tibetan for Udayana, and Udayana is the place where Padmasambhava was born. Okay, so Bante's name's Urgyen Sangharakshita, the place where Padmasambhava was born, Sangharakshita. And there's more and more as I begin to explore Padmasambhava, and also just, yes, go on with my practice and learn more about Bante as well. I seem to be able to draw more and more of a connection between them. In fact, I can really sometimes sense the energy of Padmasambhava in Bente. There's a notorious talk in the 70s by Bente on Padmasambhava, and he harnesses this energy that I've never really, this side of Bente I've never really seen of him before. And he really channels this fierce, active energy of Padma in that talk. And I also believe that Padmasambhava has been a real great source for Bente when he decided to come found the tradition of the Western order. You know, Bente didn't plonk a different tradition in a different culture. He really drew upon the mythology, the folklore, and the art and literature in the Western psyche. He integrated what was around to help us connect to the path of liberation. You know, he selected teachings and practices specifically to meet the demons of the West: industrialization, capitalism, nihilism, and rationalism, and there's many, many more. And I just want to end, yeah, it's just a quote from Bente. I think it's from that notorious talk of him, and he's talking, yeah, he's talking about the demons of the West. So it is time we recognize them, time we establish contact with them, time that we transformed them back from being devils, back to being gods. And perhaps if we can do that, they will protect the Dharma in this country. Thank you, everybody. I hope I didn't talk too fast. Got your bowl.
Oh. Thank you. Okay. Well, thanks for that talk, Eve. I mean, in half an hour, you just sort of covered so much, and you spoke so clearly, and it was a really slow pace.
Okay.
So I can't get over how you got so much in without having to talk fast, and yeah, very inspiring talk, really inspiring, and yeah, I really like the way you captured the dangers of the rational mind. You know, the rational mind is only going to take us so far. And in some ways, tonight's puja is about trying to transform the depths. You know, Bante's very famous aphorism, isn't it? We're trying to find emotional equivalents for intellectual understanding. So, yeah, thanks ever so much, Eve. Really great talk, real gift you have there for, you know, conveying so clearly and in such an inspiring way as well.